Welcome to NBR This Week, a look back on our leading stories. Evidence of serious impropriety, chronic insolvency and failure to comply with Reserve Bank directions were reasons to order the immediate liquidation of failed insurer CBL Insurance. In the end, the Reserve Bank's counsel Nathan Guy QC didn't need to go into detail at the High Court at Auckland. Opposition to the Reserve Bank's liquidation application melted away last weekend, and what was due to be a week-long trial turned into a brief one-day hearing. Evidence before the court gave further details about the CBL's involvement with a Peruvian gold mine called El Toro. Documents show CBL almost backed off the deal with El Toro because its owner was suspected of involvement in drug trafficking and money laundering. However, it went ahead and even took a share in the mine. Regulators are now concerned about the probity of the deal and the whereabouts of gold mine dividends supposedly paid to CBL. NBR's Tim Hunter gives his take on what's next for the troubled insurer.
There's a whole web of peculiar arrangements underlying CBL. We've now started to get a window into this as a result of the lifting of confidentiality orders at the liquidation hearing on Monday. So we're now understanding a lot more about why the Reserve Bank was so urgently keen to seek the liquidation of this company. And from now, what we're likely to see is the liquidators deeply probing the transactions that were undertaken by CBL over the last 2 years, and legal action is quite likely against to recover obviously money, but also potentially against directors for some of the transactions that were undertaken. It's going to take a long time to resolve, but it's hard to see a very clean outcome for quite some time.
Ebert construction creditors rebelled and dumped one liquidator in favour of another. Creditors voted on Tuesday afternoon to replace Grant Thornton's David Rusco and Tim Downs with BDO's Ian Shepherd and Jessica Callow. Liquidator and Tempest Litigation Funders Director Damien Grant had been running a campaign up and down the country persuading creditors to vote for a change over the controversial collapse. Mr Shepherd has confirmed there is now $100 million worth of unsecured creditors' claims. He said creditors will be contacted in the very near future as he takes over investigating and what happened at the failed construction firm. Aged care sector veteran Guy Eady says his new boutique venture, B Group, will stay away from the institutional feel people get from long corridor developments. Mr Eady says the company will focus on new technology and good design. It recently completed Rawati development in Auckland's Remuera and is selling units for up to $1.8 million. B Group also has a village bought in Whangarei Falls Estate and a third 200-unit village is planned in Auckland's Half Moon Bay. But Mr Eady is worried about industry staff shortages and wants the government to change immigration settings to let more nurses and caregivers in. He spoke to NBR's Calida Stewart-Menteith.
As a consequence, a lot of the operators, to my knowledge, in the industry have had an exodus out of aged care to the DHBs where they can get paid better on better terms. And there's a lot of aged care operators hurting at the moment. It's a very competitive space. And look, at the end of the day, that brings risk to the industry from the point of view of care. And my view is the settlement that the government made without making any adjustment to funding to us is a risk the government have decided to take with the people of New Zealand.
Outgoing Vector chairman Michael Stiassny took a parting shot at Vector's 75% shareholder Intrust at the company's annual general meeting. Last week, independent directors David Bartholomew and Sybil Krieger resigned from the Auckland-based Power Lines company after Intrust decided not to support their re-election, even though they were appointed just 10 months ago. Mr Stiassny decided to retire at the AGM after he lost Intrust's support in May. Mr Stiassny told shareholders he was deeply saddened the directors resigned after they were appointed to the board after an exhaustive process based on significant experience, international knowledge and expertise where Vector needs guidance. Asked about the removal of the 2 directors, Intrust Deputy Chairman Michael Bukowski replied they were temporary assignments. After 43 days in court, 21 witnesses, a side squabble over the case's funding, and a surprise settlement, Mainzeal trial judge Francis Cook says the key issue is still as it was on day one. The lengthy trial, in which Dame Jenny Shipley and Richard Yang, among others, were accused of breaching directors' duties, wrapped up this week in the High Court in Auckland. The liquidators have made their claim for $75 million, but if the directors are held liable, creditors owed $117 million will be paid out once the litigation funder takes its cut of about 30%. Around $7 million in costs will also be paid in liquidation and associated costs. Subcontractors are expecting to receive about 2 to 3 cents for every dollar they are owed if the claim against the directors succeeds. And in a look back at what's happened on the markets this week, NBR's Calida Stewart-Menteith speaks to Fat Profit Research Head Greg Smith.
So Greg, how would you characterise the week that's been?
Yeah, look, I think it's been quite whippy, and look, as you point out, trade frictions are continuing to sort of weigh on investors, and also valuation. Obviously, you've seen the tech stocks sell off, led by one of the bellwethers in terms of Apple, a concern there over slowing demand for iPhones, and I suppose that's sort of a symptomatic of where global demand generally perhaps is at. So that's got investors a little bit worried. New Zealand's been weak, as you say, held up better than some other indices in the region, particularly Australia, I suppose. But certainly investors sort of looking at where we're heading to on the trade front.
Now looking ahead to next week, NBR's Shoeshine columnist says the ASX can keep the Kiwi Roos. So for more on that and other stories, head to our website and have a fantastic weekend.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.